Well, being on a budget no longer really means that you have to make a big compromise. Both these cars here are considered to be budget-friendly cars, but they are not big compromises, and both these cars are big in terms of personality. Yes, the all-new Santro is finally challenging the Tata Tiago. But before going further, let me just quickly take a picture for Instagram, because it is, of course, all about Instagram these days, isn't it? And I'll post this picture on my Instagram. You can follow me on AshishMasi1. You can also follow the team autoportal_India on Instagram, and also follow us on Twitter. So let's start this review. But before that, here's a quick word from our sponsors. If you're planning to sell your car first before buying any of these two, then please check out Cars24. Visit any of their 50 branches all across India and sell your car at the best price. Not only this, Cars24 will immediately transfer the money into your bank account and will also take care of all the paperwork, including the RC transfer. Check out Cars24 today. And now let's check out the Tata Tiago and the all-new Hyundai Santro. Is this legendary nameplate going to dethrone the king of budget-friendly cars? We'll find out today. Well, to talk about the interior quality, this is definitely the better car when you compare it with the Tata Tiago in terms of sheer quality. Yes, the switches over here have a nice and tactile feel. Even the smaller switches really have a nice feel. The only negative is that the power window buttons are here in the center and not in their original position on the door pads. So that's something that is a bit of a compromise, but that's quite okay. You'll get used to it. And the buttons themselves are really nice and feel very high-end in terms of the quality. The design of the dashboard is definitely ahead of the Tiago as well, especially the AC vents here, which look like the turbines of an aircraft, look very cool. In terms of storage places, the Tiago again doesn't stand a chance, because you get huge bottle holders here in the Santro. The tray over here is also nice and big for a couple of cell phones, in fact 3 cell phones, and the glove box is also of a decent shape and size, and the seats also are decent in terms of comfort. In terms of features also, this car is ahead of the Tiago. You get Apple's CarPlay as well as Android Auto. You get rear camera when you reverse, and you also get rear AC vents, which is something that no other car at this price point has to offer. Well, the first things first, no car at this price point can simply match this. Yes, turn your volume up. Let's hear that one more time. The reassuring and authoritative thud sound that the doors of the Tiago make when you shut them is something which is a way lot better than any Euro NCAP rating when it comes to safety, because this car really makes you feel safe, and this car really feels very sturdy and solidly put together. And if you're traveling on the highway or even the city with your entire family, then as I just said, no Euro NCAP sticker over here with 5 stars or 6 stars or 7 stars will make you feel as safe or as confident about being inside a car like the way this door sounds. Well, so that's one big advantage that this car has over the Santro. It also feels a lot more comfortable in terms of seat comfort. The cushioning on these seats is definitely ahead of the Santro, not by a huge margin, but it is ahead. But that's about it. In terms of the overall design, it doesn't look as striking as the one on the Santro, and even in terms of features, it is slightly behind, because you don't get Android Auto as well as Apple CarPlay on this system. And also, the infotainment system over here is really small and tiny. It really is a very small one, and it looks really outdated, and it's not a touchscreen, as I just said, so that's something which is a bit disappointing. And also, there aren't as many places to keep your odds and ends. There's only one big tray over here and a couple of small beverage holders over here, and in the door bins you can't keep anything except some folded newspapers. So in terms of storage places, it is the Santro which has the edge, and the Santro definitely has the flashier, the more flamboyant, and the better cabin in terms of a feel-good factor about itself. But as I just said, that big advantage this car has is this really reassuring and very authoritative. Well, someone who is about 5'10", which is my height for reference, these seats are just about okay for knee room. As you can see, it's at a bit of a premium here compared to the Santro. Headroom is quite okay and pretty comparable with the Santro, but yes, knee room is on the tighter side, because we're of course comparing with the Santro. In isolation, it is quite okay, but in terms of comparison, it is on the lower side. So the Santro wins the battle of the knee room. Well, in terms of backseat space, you can see that the Santro is ahead of the Tiago, both in terms of the overall knee room as well as headroom, and there's also place below the front seat where I can really stretch my feet out. So this car is definitely roomier than the Tiago, but the best part is that the knee and hip angle is better than the Tiago. You don't sink into these seats, you really sit on them, so it is more comfortable for longer journeys. And you also get door bins at the back with 1-liter bottle holders in them, so for highway trips also it is a better car. And the aperture is also nice and wide. So what I'm essentially trying to say is that the Santro is ahead of the Tiago in terms of overall space, comfort, as well as features and fit and finish as well. Well, so the new Santro comes with a 1.1 litre petrol engine which makes about 68 bhp of power. But how does it drive? Well, it's a typical Hyundai to drive, and what I essentially am trying to say with that is that the steering wheel is really nice and light, which is a good thing for people who drive in the city because they won't tire their arms too much. The clutch is really nice and linear and very light, and the gearbox also has a nice sporty and short throw to it, so it is a light and easy car to drive around town, which is a good thing. Visibility all across is excellent. It is a car which gives you great visibility, and remember, it is a tall boy design. It is a car which is quite nice in terms of height, so you get high set seats and you can see quite at a distance, so you can see 3 or 4 cars ahead of you when you're stuck at a traffic jam, and you know exactly how long you'll be stuck there, and that's something which buyers will truly appreciate. Well, in terms of the suspension setup, it's a soft suspension setup, which means that at slow city speeds this car really does soak in the bumps very well. All those rumble strips, those expansion joints and those badly patched up roads are taken into stride quite nicely by this new Santro, so you won't feel uncomfortable or overtly uncomfortable in the city. It is a nice and absorbent suspension setup. On the highway, if you're doing speeds say of about 80 or 90 kph, then this car will offer you decent confidence. It has reassurance at that speed, but of course if you push it beyond 100 kph, it won't really feel very reassuring because it tends to become a little light. Well, so the first thing that you will immediately notice about the Tiago when you compare it with the Santro is the fact that this car feels a lot more flexible. The engine feels a lot more flexible, and that's because this is a 1.2 litre engine compared to the 1.1 on that car. It's also a lot more powerful. It makes about 84 bhp compared to the 68 bhp of the Santro, and you can immediately feel the difference when you take it out on the highway. Yes, it is really the highway where this car truly excels. It is a fantastic car for the highway. It doesn't feel like you're driving a small car, and that's a compliment. It feels like a much bigger car, especially in the ride department. Well, one more thing that you'll truly like about the Tiago is the feedback from the steering wheel. Now, it isn't a very heavy steering wheel, and it isn't as light as the one on the Santro. It is somewhere in between, but it definitely feels a lot more communicative than the one on the Santro, and makes you feel like you are in control and know what's exactly happening with the tires down below. In terms of overall visibility, the Tiago is slightly behind the Santro, though. This chunky A-pillar means that you have to look around across it, and the rear view mirrors, even though they are large, aren't as good as the Santros, and the view from this mirror over here for the back isn't the best. It's at a bit of an angle which isn't the best, so it doesn't make life easy. So visibility wise, the Santro has the clear advantage, and as I just said, the Santro is the better car for driving in the city, and definitely the more relaxing car as well, because it really has very light controls. But for the highway, the Tiago wins the battle without even having to try hard. Now, in terms of outright performance, it really is neck and neck between both these cars. There's hardly anything to choose between them if you're driving more in the city, and that's because even though this is the more powerful car, the Tiago is also slightly heavier than the Santro. So in the city, that performance, that advantage of the BHP is slightly negated. It's neck and neck, but on the highway, this one simply runs away, and the Tiago really takes off, and the Santro really does need some catching up to do, because the Santro, as I just said, runs out of breath when you rev it up, and it needs that extra bit of horsepower added for highway use. Well, both these cars are very good in terms of overall personalities, and they really do deliver a whole lot of package in terms of the amount of money that they charge. But it is the Hyundai Santro, the all-new Santro, which comes out on top because it has a roomier cabin. It definitely has a whole lot more in terms of refinement, and it also has a richer features list, and these are things which buyers in this segment truly do appreciate. And if I had to give it a score out of 100, both these cars, then this one would get 88 and this one would get a strong 90. It is the winner of our comparison today, and with that, it's bye for now, and hope to see you soon. And please don't forget to follow me on Instagram.